Welcome to the Didi and Lital show. Advice, thoughts, and stories from a married couple on cybersecurity, technology, and life in general. Now here are your hosts, Didi and Lital.
Hello and welcome to the Didi and Lital show. It's another week. How are you doing, Didi? What's up?
I am awesome. I am back to awesome. You know why I am awesome?
No.
So each of us decided to put a t-shirt for what they support. You support bringing them back. And I support violence in sports. Because...
What's your t-shirt?
100 years for the Bruins. So, Rangers game versus Devils. Roman, this is going out to you. A line brawl. Do you know what a line brawl is?
You tell me.
It means that everybody on the ice beats the shit out of each other. And this has been a while. So there's a guy...
Immediately after the puck drops, too.
Exactly. Immediately after the puck drops. It's like, you know, I'm watching Hulu as like on the side. And what? Fight. Yes. Awesome. And the cameraman don't even know how to track the fights anymore because they're like these Gen Zers, nice guys. Versus, no, the angles. So there's a guy called Rempe on the Rangers, and he's been ejected from every single game against the Devils because he beats the shit out of them. Violence in sports. And even the Bruins beat the Carolina Hurricanes yesterday in the fight and in the game. So happy.
Good.
Yes.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yes.
That's great. Well, we have a topic today because we've listened to a few podcasts that were on the topic. And because we're parents and we have many parents listening to us, we want to give our kind of parenting advice. And
don't listen to us. We're terrible parents.
Horrible
parents.
Yeah.
Just ask our kids.
Exactly. Well, you've seen one of them. We should bring the other two to the podcast.
At least one of them claimed we traumatized them for life.
Well, that's what psychologists makes money out of. But
exactly.
We can talk about that because that's part of the issue. So there is this issue of or the trend called
free range parenting, which is basically like what our parents did.
Which is basically Gen X's growing up. That's normal. Let's start with that. What your childhood was like, and at what age were you allowed to walk around without an adult around you?
So you assume that my gentle personality was looking for approval at any point in time?
I don't know, but your parents, you know, you have a judge mom, an OB/GYN dad, the like normal parents.
When I was 6, I was playing the playground.
Well, you were 6
in the middle of Tel Aviv, by the way, not in the...
That's the beginning of the 80s.
Yes. So when I was 6...
exactly the beginning of the 80s.
Exactly the beginning of the 80s, in 79, 80. We lived in the smack middle of Tel Aviv, not like Ramat Aviv, which is a suburb where we moved a year later. I used to go and knock on my friends' doors and go and play in the playground.
Did you walk home by yourself from school?
Of course.
Yes.
I was a key child.
Yeah.
I had nannies. I had nannies growing up all the time. Mainly because my sister is a little bit younger than me, and also because I need to be fed. But besides the feeding, the cleaning, and all the rest of the stuff, I think I was on my own, like, since the age of 6.
I think most of us.
Yeah.
6 or 7.
Second grade, I walked to school on my own.
Second grade, I remember myself picking my sister from, the daycare, preschool she was at. Like, I definitely remember myself walking there, bringing her back.
I don't remember until I started taking the car that my parents ever asked me, where are you going to? Ever.
I think my parents did. They knew where I'm going. I would tell them, but
that's because you're nice.
No, I think with girls it's a little bit different.
Yes.
I think that parents were a little bit more worried.
Yeah.
Thank you for arranging my mic. Okay, now it's better. But yeah, I mean, childhood was basically spontaneous.
Yes.
I wanted to meet a friend. I maybe picked up the phone, called a parent. They would pick up the phone, and I would ask if this and this is at home, and I will tell them I'm coming, or I would just walk there or ride my bike and see if they're home and start playing. So that was really unplanned. Like, I knew I need to come back by dinner time. I need to tell my parents where I am or leave a note. So I would leave a note on the fridge of where I went. I mean, they would drive me around for like gym classes and stuff if it was a little bit far away. But I could take a bus later.
When I took karate, and that was from 6th grade on, I took the bus.
I think in Israel, those things only changed when buses started exploding in the late 90s. Like, until then, kids would take buses everywhere.
Yep.
I think that's the only thing. It felt safe. Everything felt safe. But I think, so now looking at friends in Israel, kids are not growing up that way, but they're not also so helicopter parenting.
So, for example, I didn't use the phone to call any of my friends. There was actually a crisis when I moved to the other place, the newer place in Ramat Aviv, when we moved to the 12th floor, because my friends couldn't shout, because I grew up in the 2nd floor. They used to shout from the window for me to come down. There was like nobody called anybody. It was like shouting down.
Yeah, now you text, I'm here.
Yeah, now you text, I'm here, but the fact is that...
You didn't have an intercom?
We might have, but shouting is easier. So back to our core point. I think there was a lot of freedom, and I am comparing notes with friends who grew up here, especially in suburbia. So friends who grew up in suburbia, and I think our friends, what's their name? I'm joking about friends. The Hollanders, Hoplanders, the other couple that does.
There is a couple. You mean, I think they're called the Hollanders or something. They're on Instagram and YouTube. They have a channel. They're in North Carolina.
They have a video of growing up in the 80s, and they show biking around.
The summer would look like that. They ride the bike. They go to whomever, and if they're not home, they just keep on riding to the next home.
Or they just go, or they just squat at the
friend's house until it shows up.
Until they show up.
Yeah.
Which is something, by the way, that at least I know that my friends used to come over, and if I was like away in karate, I would open the door, and I would find Shlomi in the living room. Not a problem at all. It was like a no thought, no brainer, no problem.
So a few things that's why the loss of that is important, and what do we need to do to restore it? And so there are a few things. First, it seems like in the 90s, this kind of like helicopter parenting started to emerge. Part of it, people say, is because of this big media focus or over focus on those relatively rare kids abduction cases.
Yep.
We didn't grow up here, but all the carton boxes, the milk carton boxes with the kids, missing kids and stuff, kind of made people feel like kids are not safe, and kids need to be supervised. At the same time, a lot of for-profiting after-school activities. The sports became even more kind of organized. So kids' free time became more organized, planned. Kids have after-school activities that are kind of like, you need to bring them to this practice, and you need to take them to that practice. So this started growing. So together with that, and of course, with their phone, their iPad, their social media, kids have less of a need, or they think they have less of a need to go outside and socialize and do things. So all of it together led to a point that kids are just being driven to places. They don't have unplanned, unorganized time, and they're on screens for hours and hours a day. And there is a bunch of new research coming pointing at this, the lack of socializing, unorganized time, that might be one of the main causes for the mental health crisis of kids. And I will point afterwards to an episode in Honestly by the Free Press, very wise, awesome episode, in which they talk about human beings as a social creature, that part of our adolescence and the way our brain developed and our frontal cortex develops is through this free play that teenagers have. Or preteens and even kids have. If you see, you put kids together wherever, whenever they start playing together. This is how we as a creature, I mean, you see cubs of puppies doing that. You see monkeys doing that. We nurture each other. That's our thing. And if we don't let kids grow up that way, we always have an adult supervising, we always dictate to them what they need to do and what's right and what's wrong. They're missing that. And that's the hypothesis nowadays, that this lack of freedoms, time with each other, free play, unsupervised, is what may cause, together with the impact of sitting on screens and other things, might be the cause of some of those mental health issues that we're seeing.
Okay, so I'll break it down into a couple things.
Okay.
Because I think you're going immediately into the outcomes, and I want to deal with the causes. So there's a big difference between the U.S. and every place else.
True.
And I don't think it has to deal with the kidnappings. I think it has to deal with the car companies. And this is where always blame capitalism for stupidity. U.S. suburbs are not built for walking.
Correct.
Think of the fact that there's even Newton, which is very urban, suburban.
Yeah, it's relatively walk friendly.
It's
unless you are in the most.
But no, it's not. If you're on our side of the 9, it's nice.
Yeah.
You go to the other side of the 9.
The southern part of Newton.
Oh, Oak Hill and all that. That's a shithole. That part you can't walk. It's not a shithole.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful place, but nobody has sidewalks.
No sidewalks.
No sidewalks.
I mean, and don't forget that we have 3 months of ice and snow. So if it's not paved, it's just unsafe to walk.
Remember the bus thing you mentioned? And remember
no public transportation.
Remember that I was talking about the fact that the MBTA is the most unsafe mode of transport in the world. So that is a problem. So the T is built to bring from the suburb to the hub. There's no suburb to suburb. So if I want to go to Brookline, I need to go all the way into Boston and come back all the way out. There's no crossing buses. Everything goes. And that's why if Leah needs to go to dance class by bus, it takes her 45 minutes on a place that it will take me 30 minutes to walk. So this is kind of a little bit of how the buses are built.
Actually, Newton is one of the best, and
but
Newton
the busing is not very good. If you think of
the busing in Newton is 10 times better than the next town.
It could be the best, but it's not good. If you remember when we grew up, the buses worked in the grid. So I take one line towards the grid and then another bus.
Yeah, buses needs to be planned in a grid and to be effective, efficient, and you being able to actually use it,
and
which is not.
Which is not. So right now,
it's basically an infrastructure problem. I don't know. I don't blame the car companies. It's basically urban planning and execution.
There's enough evidence to blame the car companies on that one. So with lobbies and stuff like that, it's everything. All the suburbs were built for 2-car families. Everything was built for 2-car families,
For sure.
and that also brought in the fact that if everything needs to be done with a car, now a 6-year-old walking is in danger because there's a plethora of cars. When I grew up in Ramat Aviv, which is a very rich suburb, we had 2 cars, and us and the penthouse were the only other 2 families.
But now it's like every family in Israel have 2 cars.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is that when we were growing up, the number of cars.
It could be that it was the same here at that time.
No,
People
it wasn't.
have
Everybody had 2 cars. Look at the houses; they all have 2-car garages. The old houses in Newton all have 2-car garages.
Okay.
If they have 2-car garages, that means that they had 2 cars. Usually they had 3 because they also used to have a hobby car. So lots of cars driving in unlit roads.
Yeah, lighting is a problem. Again, it gets dark early if you're in the north. So it's most of the year. So that's unsafe. That's another thing. And I think there is also proximity. Let's not forget those cities and towns and suburbs probably have one kind of main center. I mean, Newton is actually unique that there are villages and we have like a few centers, but like the kids, if they need to go to a playground, if they want to go and, get pizza, they might be remote. It might not be even a walking distance.
No,
yes, it is. Go to, you're just thinking about your own town. The next suburbs to us, if you're in Needham, if you're in Wellesley, you're not a walking distance to anything that a kid can do. So, yeah, it's not. I mean, that's the way suburbs are built. So they are not for free-range kids because they cannot.
So let's define free range. So here's the real problem. Out of all these things, and you always jump to the end rather than go through the path. Planning is awesome. So free-range parenting means a movement here in the U.S. that says parents are actually allowed to let their kids do stuff. Because one of the things that was fixed, and this is where you're wrong, as usual, that
you have to annoy me today on this podcast.
No, I think you're just.
You came this morning.
I think you're just
to annoy me.
No, I think you're just annoyable. I think the part that you need to think through a little bit with this is that things were fixed for things to be walkable. People put bike paths into every place.
That's new.
These things have happened over the last 10 years quite a lot in a lot of suburbs, in a lot of places. But if a parent actually does this and sends a kid over with his bike to the playground, somebody calls the police. And this is the whole thing of free-range parenting.
So that's
free-range parenting came from the fact that a couple of European parents moved to New York and let their kids go play in the playground that was in the building. There's these fenced playgrounds right downstairs for the apartment building. They let their kids, because they were used to this, they said, hey, how about you go and
take the elevator and go downstairs and play in the backyard.
Exactly. And that was very normal for them. The police showed up in their front door saying, you're bad parents. Everybody complained that you're bad parents. And they said, no, this is normal. And this is normal parenting behavior.
Yeah, there was a case in, I think it was DC, when the kids were very similar, down the road from a playground in a suburb. And 2 kids, 9-year-old and 6-year-old, 7, and the parents daily told the kids to just ride the bikes or walk to a playground that is like less than half a mile from the home. And the police was called. And then they called child services.
Yes, even we had like a whole bunch of people give us the stink eye for sending Omri and Ido to play in Wicksfield, which is at the end of our street. So this is a little bit of what I'm trying to get to with the free-range parenting.
Yeah, because then it becomes...
how come everybody in society feels that it's okay for them to stick their noses up my butt about how I parent? And this is where I think free range parenting conversation should go to, which is, let's say we fix the roads when we put better lighting and we put bike paths and we make everything accessible, because in theory, Newton wanted, if you remember, there was this whole walk to school initiative, and we got emails about can the kids walk to school?
Yeah, it's still going. I think it was this week.
And
this week was the walk to school day.
And can you bike to school? Because the streets that lead to the schools, they get congested like super fast because they're not built to deal with.
And they want less people on school buses because they are now super crowded. They don't have enough drivers, and
even with that,
kids
if you think
walk to school.
Exactly, kids should walk to school. Walking, I want to be able to tell my kids I walked both ways to school all the time, uphill, both ways in the snow. There was no snow in Israel.
There was no uphill in Tel Aviv. It's flat like a pancake.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Exactly, but I walked 5 miles in the snow to school. Stop complaining.
You live 300 meters. From
The high school was much further than our high school.
The high school is like
the high school was a mile and a half, but yes, it was not a problem to go to school.
No,
in the snow.
Well, I think we started sending, even though, again, we had an au pair at that time when we had kids, but we decided that they need to walk and not be driven by the au pair. So I think our kids are walking to school or riding the bike since third grade. We decided it's enough.
But that was us mutinying against everybody.
Yeah, I think third grade people give you less of the stinky eye.
But this is a lot of the problem. One is other meddling parents and other meddling people complaining, because right now, if you think about it, we oppress and suppress a lot of basic behavior. I'll give you the most basic behavior we keep oppressing and suppressing. 4-year-old boys or 3-year-old boys, you know what their favorite thing is to do?
I'm sure you'll tell me.
Pee on stuff. And I think the police complained of exposure on parents that allowed boys, either pee their pants or pee on a tree. They said, no, you can't pee on a tree. It's exposure. Guys, how about we chill? And this is, I think, the main thing that needs to happen with free range parenting. It's the chill. It's okay in a suburb right now, in most of the suburbs, to let your 12-year-old kids bike for 3 miles. Trust me. If they can't mentally get themselves from one place to the other, it's a problem.
It is a problem. And it's great. They're not going to be for 15 minutes on the cell phone. And that's only 15 minutes on the day. They're not going to be on the cell phone.
And it's okay to, in one of the safest cities in the world, to let your daughter ride the T
to Boston.
Nothing will happen. Your 16-year-old daughter, by the way. So, and this is where I think where a lot of us need to take a look at what is a real risk, and is there a way to give our kids hall passes and force them to these things. So, for example, this season, I told Army, hey, buddy, I don't care about your hockey schedule. You tell me when we leave for games and when we come back from games and which games you want to choose. I'm not dealing with all your problems. You deal with this.
Because he needs to be responsible for the time,
exactly,
the schedule, make sure he's not late, communicate with his coaches instead of us doing it.
Exactly.
Enough. I agree. This whole thing of also, well, all the kids have cell phone. Why do parents still schedule play dates? That is a thing that in Israel, parents never schedule play dates. The kids
nobody schedules anything.
Nobody schedules
anything.
If anything, the kids just let the parents know something is happening.
No, the whole country is unscheduled.
Unscheduled is a thing. Yeah, you don't schedule a play date 3 weeks in advance.
The fact that flights are scheduled is a miracle.
Yeah, half the time they'll probably get canceled anyhow.
Yes.
So, it does link to the regular topic of cybersecurity, because at the end of the day, I think it's a risk reward balance that we're talking about.
Yep.
Yes, letting a 16-year-old ride, not yet drive. We'll get to that risk. That's a future us problem. We'll have an episode probably coming up about that. But ride the T to Boston has some risks, right? I mean, it's maybe low, but there is a risk. But the pluses of it, the gains are so big. Her ability to learn how to do it by herself. Actually, she has been doing it since 8th grade.
Yep.
Now, yeah, a year before high school. So she feels
Empowered.
Very able, empowered, making decisions, scheduling, getting. I actually twice she went to a friend. She had to plan where she's dropping and changing to a different train, and that's useful. It's a useful skill. Like as kids, we would actually take a map, not using Waze or Google Maps to tell us where to go. It's a skill. Like
yes,
go figure it out. I mean, she's also flying on her own for more than 2 years now, 3 years now. She has been flying around the world. She's a frequent flyer. She gets to places. That's what she likes to do, Leah. And then, yes, there is a risk. Am I worried? Yes. I think you are the one that usually is even more worried because of stories from your mom and her day-to-day.
Yes. So
but you need to know, and you can talk about that. Like, yes, there are like predators, there are crazy stuff going on. Things happen, but they are rare. And we realize there is a chance of something bad happening, but also living in fear and not letting yourself enjoy the freedom of going and doing things without an adult supervising you is so important and so good that I think the gain is bigger. So, how do we help parents figure risk versus gains here?
So first, there's something that's really important to understand. When you don't allow the kids a little bit of freedom, they won't be able to recognize risk. If you keep taking your kids, so when the kids walk with me, they don't even look side to side. They expect me to tell them when they put their foot in the street. I told Ron, you're a 16-year-old. You're a moose. You're
not. Don't hold my hand.
Don't hold my hand. Wake up. And that's a lot of the thing that...
Like you're about to drive a car.
Yes, exactly. And I think this kind of forces them to start thinking about these things.
You want them to develop a sense of risk.
Yes.
And feel it, really feel it.
Exactly. Understand risk because daddy's not going to be there all the time.
And I think for those that listen, for female, this is super important. I think that we shouldn't, you may find it controversial, but listen to me. We need to get this inner feeling of when a place is not good for us and we need to get away from there. And if you never exposed to this situation, it will be very hard for you to recognize it. You need to feel that, oh, this party is not for me. Oh, this dark alley is not a place to walk in. Yes, life it has threats. And if you're a female, we've been there. And I think it's healthy to develop it, not when you are, a 5-year-old, but yes, when you are 14, 15, 16, you need to be in a relatively safe environment. I wouldn't let my daughter walk at,
I wouldn't let my daughter
12 a.m. at night in, downtown Crossing, Boston. No way. But can she walk there in the middle of the day? Yes, she can.
With me in a little bit of a distance when she doesn't see. So where she does karate, I sometimes feel unsafe. So that
I feel a little bit awkward there,
No,
but I
no,
do
no, no.
think it is. So still, it's Boston. It's not Philly.
it's not Cleveland.
Yeah, and like, yeah, you don't have the people with fentanyl. Nah.
Yeah,
in the-
but still, you have several things that there are things that make me feel uncomfortable, and I think this is one of the things that we do need to make them feel uncomfortable. It's a bit like the kittens. I don't know if you know this, but kittens, if you pick a kitten up like Simba,
He's not a kitten.
I know.
He's a grown-up.
He's a grown-up tiger. Yes, but when he was a kitten, remember that he was biting, and we were told that we need to give him negative feedback on the biting because he'll become a tiger. And now it's cute and he does these little bites. But when he'll be a grown-up,
he still bites. He's now a grown-up and he bites.
He bites you. He doesn't bite me.
Of course he does.
No.
You just think it's cute.
No, there's a way to mitigate. But the idea is to mitigate and give negative feedback, because otherwise they don't learn and they don't understand that it hurts, because our hands don't have claws. Our teeth are a lot less sharp. So we don't, when they play with other kittens and scratch each other and bite each other, they understand
how it feels.
And how it feels. So they have this mitigation. It's the same thing with threat. If you learn how to drive your bike and ride your bike, you become a much better driver, because you understand the need for focus. You need to understand to navigate. You need to understand.
You understand that when you brake,
it doesn't stop immediately.
It doesn't stop immediately, and there is physics, and you'll be thrown off the bike.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of these things, there's things that if you don't learn early on, there's a problem. And then there's my favorite topic. Ron is not stressed to get a car. On my 16th birthday, like on the birthday, I was at the DMV, not 16th, 17th, because it was Israel.
Right now he's stressed for him taking the online RMV test, and you will interrupt him in the middle. That's his stress. That's why he procrastinates on that. He says that he needs to get you and Omri out of the house to do it. So if you want him to get his license, his permit, you get out of the house.
Yeah, we have another house. He can be there.
I told him to go to the new place before we move.
Yes.
Just do it.
It's alone. Alone.
I'm going to drop him there so he take his permit test.
Yes.
And he can already sit in a car, and
yes,
he will sit behind the wheel and do nothing for like hours.
Yes, it's going to be very scary.
I will do it with him. We'll talk about that. But I want to talk about, so this thing of being exposed to some adversities and being exposed to, things that are not pleasant is also important for kids to grow up in and for the future of society. Because, we see around all these young professionals that are fragile.
Yes.
Like, you say something and they get insulted, and you're
offended.
You're being aggressive, which are normal things that we all encounter. Like, life is not pleasant.
Yes.
So part of this free range thing is like, let them feel unpleasant feeling. Let them get exposed to everything, the range of things that life has to offer, especially the negative stuff.
Yep.
Like, we should not prevent or have our kids avoid the negative emotions,
Yep.
the negative relationships. Kids will have heartbreaks,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yes.
I want them to.
Because if they don't, it means that they haven't experienced life. And going back to my favorite sport, hockey, if you throw a punch and somebody punches you back, you learn. Or you say something bad and somebody hits you over the head with a stick. It teaches you that when you say something, there's consequences. And not your parents say, "Oh, you're awesome," by saying these cute things, even when you're 16.
And
you're not
nobody is
cute.
really happy. That is the thing. Parents wanted kids to have wonderful childhood. Everything is perfect. Kids will be so happy. And now they're not. There is a generation that is not happy. How come? It's because you cannot be happy if you didn't work hard, if you didn't fail, you're only happy with the victory.
If you feel if you're happy with, you need to feel happiness, you need to feel sadness.
Exactly.
And I think one of the interesting things, and I think the fraction and where things need to happen, is a lot has to do with the feeling of the problem. If you try to smooth out everything, and the first time you encounter a speed bump, you can't smooth out life. That's what I'm trying to think through. You can't be there. And I'll give you a very interesting story. My mom, if we're gonna, I see that you're sensitive about your family, so I'll give an example of my mom. When I was born, she used to wash me like every time I took a poop. And as you can imagine, I pooped a lot because everybody poops, like we've learned from multiple episodes before. She used to wash me completely. And I got this massive rash. And the doctor said, you're not supposed to wash. They're supposed to sit and shit a little bit, because otherwise their skin doesn't develop the right level of defense against it.
Same with allergens. Like you're supposed to play in the sand and get some bacteria, and your immune system needs to develop itself. You need to get sick.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll have severe immunodeficiencies. You will have allergies, terrible allergies, because you're not exposed.
And now the problem with parents is they're not allowing their kids to be exposed to assholes. And you need to be exposed to me to tell you that no,
it's normal.
You suck. No, you suck. First of all, most people suck.
First, you need to know that there are people like you in life.
Yes,
and
exactly.
You will not be protected by.
No, your parents cannot protect you from me in the workplace. Sorry. So you will meet somebody that will not tell you that your drawing that you made in kindergarten is good.
Not going to give you a trophy for showing up.
Not give you a trophy for showing up. And if you're a developer and contributed one line of code in 8 weeks, is going to fire you and going to be nasty about it. They're not going to be kind. And if you don't meet this behavior earlier on, you're going to be in trouble. And that's part of the reason that you're seeing that a lot of more student athletes are more successful in life than non-student athletes in the US, because whether they want it or not, they are competitive sports. And when you hit competitive sports, you get the highs and you get the lows, and you get to meet people that are nasty.
And people that are better than you.
Yes. Omri got some nice racial slurs thrown at him in hockey games, and he learned about this. He encountered physicality. This is the important thing. You need to learn that life is not perfect.
Yeah.
So what are advice for parents?
Well, at any age, think what is an appropriate way to let go. Chill. What is it that you can do if you have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old? 17 should basically, they can have children by that age.
Yes.
Like they can do whatever. They're almost voting. But chill. Start by chilling. Think about risk versus reward.
Yes.
Don't go to I'm going to do it for you. Try to let them do it themselves. Think about it.
Broken bones, by the way, is not a bad thing or a sign of you as a failed parent.
It's basically...
It means...
you are a parent.
Well, exactly. It's okay for children to... for boys especially, to climb trees and fall out of trees. And don't worry about it.
Well, we just think that Leah improved every time she
fell. Exactly. But as we started, we were really bad parents. But the idea is that, yes, life, and I think society as a whole, and this is where we as parents need to get together and start saying to society, stop. To have very clear rules that if somebody complains, that this is where the upstanders need to basically also take a step back. If you see a kid going to the supermarket on their own, it's good. It's good. If they go buy cigarettes, then you can intervene. But before that, you need to let them do this. So also if you're an observer, don't be judgmental.
I also think, and that's something for us as a society, there used to be time that the adults around, you could trust them. Like you knew your neighbors, you knew people, like we knew everybody in our building, right?
I knew nobody.
We knew everyone.
Yes.
Part of it is, can you trust the adults to help a kid versus not help a kid? And we as a society need to make it that adults will help a kid if he needs to, and will make it safe. And
But
it's
also
not
right
going to be, it's a cringe. That's the thing. If an adult now will ask a kid, are you lost? Do you need help or anything? That will be, why is he talking to my kid? So that's something.
Yeah, that's also something.
There is a lot here. As a society, we need to address it. And think about it. There is a lot to unpack, but let's start with parents thinking about that. So maybe if you're a parent of young kids, that's the time to think about it and talk to your spouse and think of how you want to let the kids grow up like Gen Xers a little bit. Gen Xers with some social media. That was an awesome generation.
Yes.
And heck, we had good music.
Yes, we had better music. No more Taylor Swift 10-minute songs. I asked Leah, did the song switch or is it the same song?
Oh my God.
And it sounds exactly the same. So there's like 10 songs of 10 minutes each that sound exactly the same. What happened to their country career? Her country music was really good. All this new stuff is shit.
She's trying to produce new music every year. That's hard to come up with an album. It just sounds the same.
Yes,
kudos
she
to Taylor Swift.
she can learn from the Eastern music in Israel. They produce 62 albums.
I
a
think
year.
she was more of a free range kid, so at least
She probably didn't grow up in Massachusetts.
No, she didn't.
Yes.
Is she from Tennessee or something? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, we hope you liked it. We talked for a long time
Yes, we
about
have.
the topic. Thank you for listening for
And
regular rant.
we do need to edit the shit out of this episode.
We will edit some of it. We'll do that. Well, thank you. This is the Didi and Lital show. If you like the show, please rate and review us. Make sure your friends get it as well. And write to us what you think about raising up kids in this millennia. Things are
Cool.
tough. Thanks, Didi.
Thanks, Lital.
See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.